Hi, I'd like to talk a little bit about JavaScript, and I thought I was going to do a series of daily JavaScript ideas, and I may not actually do it daily, but I'll give it a try. So today I have a little sample here, and I'm going to call this a view manager, and essentially, it shows, HTML objects as a view, and then it swaps one view for another view. And right here I have three views. So this is view 1, view 2, and view 3. Okay? And so they just slide in from the left, right, or from the right to the left. And maybe to give you a better idea of what's going on here, I'm going to modify the CSS a little bit here and reposition the view in the center. Okay, so I'll save that and then I'll refresh it, and you can see now this is the area where the view is going to appear. And when I click the button, you'll see the view appears on the right side and then slides in. And when there's a view currently on display in the middle, when we click a button to show another view, that view in the center, the current view, slides off to the left, and the new view slides in from the right. You'll notice when the view is off all the way on the left side, it disappears, right? So it's been removed. Okay? So the views that aren't, currently visible are gone. They're not even hidden. They're not even hidden. They're removed from the DOM. Okay? And we can inspect and see this happen in the inspector. And so here, if I look, this div in the middle here is called container, and if I open this up, you'll see that there is a div inside here called C, and that's the one here that we're seeing, right? And if I click on the B div, you'll see it adds another div, slides the other one off the screen, and then removes it from the from display, right? Okay, so how does it work? Well, let's make it for ourselves, right? The best way to understand this is to build it yourself, and then from there you can modify it and understand it even better and maybe improve on it and come up with your own idea. This idea here is sort of the kind of thing that's going on in complex libraries like jQuery Mobile, Ionic, and a bunch of other slideshow libraries and things like that. Okay, but this is just the simple core idea. Okay, and I don't claim to have the ability to write those kind of things. Those are pretty well engineered, but this might get you in the ballpark of kind of making your own transitions, right? So to get started here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all of my styles here. Okay, so I'll just delete them. And then I'll delete all of the code down here. Okay, I'll just delete everything inside the body tag, and we'll just start from scratch. There, right? Okay, so the only thing I've left here is I've linked to the jQuery library on the jQuery CDN. Okay, and so you can hopefully figure that out. Just to do that, I just went to jQuery.com and went to their download, click the download button, scrolled over here, and I copied this link, the first one. Okay, so this first link right here, I copied this. And if you look, it comes like this without the HTTP. And since I'm testing locally on my desktop, I have to include the HTTP colon. Okay, and then we're set. Okay, so what do we need? Well, the first thing I need is I need a div to act as a container for my views, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an ID on this guy and call him container, okay? And it'll be empty for now. And then what I need is I need a couple divs to act as views, okay? And so the views are things that, those container objects that slide in and slide out, and you can put whatever you want inside them, but essentially we need a wrapper to hold the content that's going to appear and disappear. And I just called my divs, I gave each one an ID, ABC, right? And then I also gave these guys a class name so they could share some styles, and I think I just called them box, okay? You could call it view maybe, or something a little more descriptive. Okay, so I'll make 3 of these. You can make as many as you want. And then I'll name them ABC so they each have their own ID, okay? I'll also need some navigation, right? So what I did for the navigation is I just made a div, and then I put, an anchor tag inside there, right? And then I made a couple links here, like that, right? So there's my anchors. And maybe I'll give each one of these guys an ID. We could probably work out a better method, but I'm just going to use an ID, and I'll call it link A. And link, B. And link C, okay? And then maybe for this div here, I'll give this a... We'll give this guy an ID also. Call it nav, okay? So our first step here is to just kind of set up the styles for these elements, okay? So, for our container here, this will set the size of the little slideshow viewer area, okay? So let's give this a style. Okay, and we'll give it a width of 100%, height of 100%. I want it to be the size, to fill the whole screen. Okay, I'm going to give it a background color too, so we can see it, and I'm going to make it light gray. You could just put I'm just using the keyword color for simplicity, right? And I'm going to also give this position relative, okay, because the elements inside are going to be positioned absolutely. This won't come into play yet, it'll apply later. Since I'm giving this a width and a height of 100%, the width of 100% will be fine, but the height of 100% is going to apply 100% height to the container of container, which in our case is the body tag, right? And so that means that the body tag has to be height 100%. But in order for body to be 100%, HTML also has to be 100% tall or high, right? So what we'll do is we'll set these guys to, height 100%. And then maybe I'll also say margin 0 to get rid of the margin around the outside of the body tag. Okay, so that's looking okay so far. Let's give it a try. So what do we got here? There you go. So there's our gray box, right? Since it's 100% height, like I can't quite get to these links down at the bottom there, right? So let's deal with those links now. So the links here are these anchors in the nav div. So let's say nav, you are going to be position fixed, right? So we'll just fix these and we'll put them in the upper corner, right? And then we'll say, you're going to be left of 20 pixels, top of 20 pixels. And we'll take a look here. Oh, it doesn't look too bad, right? And now maybe let's set the style for these links, right? And I gave each one of these guys an ID, and I think I'll give them each the same style. So I'll just, style them with the group selector. So I'm using the comma here, right? And I'll set them to display inline block. I want to do this so I can give them like a little bit of space, right? You know, around the outside. And then we'll add some padding there, right? So I'll just give it 1em padding and maybe a color of white, background, black. Okay, so there we go. So that doesn't look too bad, right? Okay, so now let's work on the other elements here. Okay, so I have 3 of these boxes and I'll just make them fill the area. So I want them to be 100% height and width. And then we'll give them a background color, okay? So let's style those. And since I gave them all a class name box, so the common styles will go on box and then the individual styles will go on the ID. So, you know, for example, they're each going to be a different color, so that'll be, you know, used on the ID, but the width and height is the same for all of them, so that'll apply to box, right? So, so we'll do box, and then we'll say, you know, width is 100%, height is 100%, okay? And then let's give them some color. So how about A? You are going to be, you know, background color. Let's do cyan. How about B? Your background color is going to be yellow. And C will be magenta. Okay. There we go, right? So we'll save all that, and I'll refresh here. And now you'll see that these boxes are down at the bottom here, right? And they're not inside of container. So the way that our thing is going to function is it's going to put these elements into container when they're needed, okay? But this is what we have so far. Okay, so that's pretty good. So now we're going to start in with the JavaScript. Okay, so we got some styles there, and we'll need those styles for these things to work. The other thing that we're going to add, and you'll notice earlier I gave the container position relative. Okay, so this is going to rely on the relationship between relative and absolute position. Okay, so when I set a parent element to relative, and then I give a child element absolute position, the child element will use the upper left corner of the relative, you know, ancestor or parent as its, you know, 0, 0 location. So when the left is 0, then we'll be at the left edge of the relative ancestor, right? So this is kind of setting the coordinate space that we're working in, right? But that also means, like I said, that we're going to position the box as absolute. So let's add that style here too. Position absolute. So that's kind of key for this to work. Okay, so now let's add some JavaScript. So I'm going to just put my script here to keep things simple. I'm going to put it at the bottom of the page. I don't know if this is the best practice these days. You know, it's kind of wavered. Like sometimes you use the jQuery load method, and some people want to put the script at the top, and then other people always say put all the script at the bottom. Lately I've just been putting it at the bottom here. It's a little simpler, and then I can skip the load method, right? So here we are. So the first thing I want to do is I want to delete all of these methods. I mean all these divs, but I don't really want to delete them. I'm going to remove them from the DOM and then hold them in a variable. Okay, and then that way I can add them to the DOM later by their variable name. Okay, so let's make a variable. I'll just call it A, and I'll set A equal to this item with the ID name A. And then I'll say B is going to be equal to the item with the ID name B, and C is equal to this item here with the ID name of C. Okay, so now we've got them stored in a variable, and then now I'll remove them. So we'll say, you know, Actually, I guess we can just do this. We can say a.remove, b.remove, and c.remove, something like that, right? So I'll save that, and then let's look again at our page here. And remember, we've got this big gray box, and then as I scroll, here's the cyan, yellow, and magenta boxes. And now let's refresh. So I'll refresh, and then now, I can't scroll because there's nothing down here because those elements were removed from the DOM. Okay? But we have them in the variables. Okay, so they're accessible to us. And if I look here in the inspector, you can see that the container is empty. There's nothing in this, right? And that the A, B, and C DOMs, or the A, B, and C elements are missing here. Okay, they don't exist. Okay, but we have them in our variables, right? Okay. So let's write a little function here to do the work for us, right? So I'm actually going to write a variable here called current view, okay? And current view is going to hold a reference to the currently visible view. So none of the views are visible right now, so this has no value. It's undefined or null or something, right? And then we'll use that because when we add a new view, when we click a link, what we'll want to do is the following. So we'll make a function here. We'll say, show view, right? And when we show a view, what we're going to do is we're going to pass the new element here, or actually maybe we'll call this new view, right? And what we'll do is we want to do a couple things here. And the first thing we want to do is hide the current view, right? So this is why we need a reference to the current view, right? Because we're gonna need to know which one is currently visible on the screen, and if we see it, we're gonna hide it, okay? And then we're gonna show the new view, okay? And so this will be the new view here, and in between these, we're gonna set the current view to the new view after we hide the current view, because the current view is going to leave, and then we'll need a reference to the new current view, which is the new view that just is coming into the view, okay? Right, so let's give that a try. So right here, when we hide the current view, what we'll do is we'll say jQuery, and you could do this a lot of ways. I'm just going to use jQuery animate to keep things simple. But there's a lot of ways we can work with this, and we could use CSS styles and stuff. But if we get this working with animate, then we can always go back and retinker the mechanism that does the animation. Okay. So what do we want to do here? Well, first of all, let's get the current view. Actually, let's write it this way. Let's say current view. I'm going to use the current view is going to be a jQuery element. Okay. So if we get an element like this, we can call any of the jQuery functions on it, even if it's in a variable without the $sign. Okay, so I'll just say new view dot. Actually, let's do a quick check before we do that. When we begin, current view won't exist. So let's do a quick check here like this, right? We'll say, hey, if current view, right? If this has a value, right? Then what we'll do is we'll say current view dot animate, and what we want to do is we want to animate the left property to a value of negative 100%. Okay, so that should move us, if we're here and 100% of the width is the width of the screen, negative 100% would put us, the width of the screen off the left side. Okay? And so for the next parameter here, with jQuery animate, we're going to type in how long the transition is going to take. Let's make it 400 milliseconds. Okay? And there we go. And actually, we can put another parameter. I was starting to put it in there, but we don't really need it, so I'm going to leave it off, right? There's a callback. We'll use it on the next function, right? Okay, so there we go. So if we have a current view, we'll tell that view to animate off the screen to the left. And there it goes. It's going to be leaving, okay? So now we're going to show the new view. So what we'll do is we'll say current view equals new view. So now we're going to save the new view as current view so we have a reference to it, so next time we can remove, this view. And then what we'll do is we'll say we need to position the current view. So we'll say current view dot CSS, and the property we want to set is left to 100%. Okay, so that places us, if our left edge was here, the new view, which is now the current view, is going to be 100%, of the width of the screen. So the left edge would be here, and we'd be off the right edge of the screen. Okay, so the current view is visible in the screen. The new view is off the right side, and then the current view is going to animate, all the way this way to the left, and then we're going to animate this view from the right over to 0, and it'll be on the left edge here. Okay? So there's our, our starting position. And then we'll just chain this call to animate here, and we'll say animate. Property we're going to animate is left to a value of 0 in a time of 400. And then I'll add another parameter here, and this is going to be a function. So I'll type the whole, function code here, right? Function, parentheses, curly brackets, right? And then I need this parentheses for, to match this one here. You can see where they turn green, right? And then this semicolon at the end, right? So I'll put a line return there. And when we get all the way off the screen, I guess actually this one doesn't need anything. Maybe I was incorrect. Maybe this is the guy that needs to do something, right? Yeah, so we'll just leave that there. Maybe we'll use that for something, right? But over here, let's go back to this first one, right? So let's add a callback here. And let's say when you're done animating, like this callback right here is a function that's executed when the animation is completed. So 400 milliseconds later, after all the motion is done, then this function is executed, right? So let's put this here. And what we want to do when this is executed is we want to say this, which will be the object here. So we don't even need this current view anymore, because this in the callback will be the view that was just animated, right? And we're changing the value of current view down here. So if we use current view here, it would be a mistake, right? So we'll say this dot remove. Okay, so just like we did earlier when we removed the elements from the DOM, here we'll be adding an element to the DOM and then removing it when the animation is complete, right? Okay, so we got to do one other thing here. We've got our view here and we're going to animate, but we need to add it to the DOM. Okay, so we got if current view, and then we're going to say jQuery container div dot HTML. Maybe there's a better way. For some reason, I think there'd be another tag for this, but HTML seemed to work for me, so I'm going to use that one. And we want to add the current. Actually, wait, I got that backwards. Sorry. The current view is already visible, so we're just going to remove it. And then down here, this is the one, right? So now we have our current view here, and what I want to do is I want to say container.html current view, right? So here for the new view doesn't exist yet. We're going to add it to container, and actually instead of HTML, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to do append, right? So I'll say append. So here we'll be appending. So if this one already exists, append will add the new view along with it. If I put it, I forgot, if I put HTML there, it'll replace the other view that's inside of container, right? Okay. let's test that. I might have missed something here. You see I fumbled a couple times there. But anyway, here's our idea, right? We're going to show a view. We're going to tell it what view we want to show. So we'll pass it one of these views, A, B, or C, right? And then the current view, which is actually another reference to A, B, or C, we're going to take that view and animate it off to the left. And when the animation is complete, we're going to remove it. And then also, when we begin the animation, we're going to set current view equal to the new view, add that new view by appending it to the container, and then animate the current view into the screen to a left of 0, starting from a left of 100%. And then when we're done, we'll have a function that calls us back, and we can do something here if we want. Okay? So how are we going to get this whole thing started? Let's tie it to the 3 buttons here. Okay? So what we'll do is we'll just add a click action to these buttons. So one of them was link, A. We'll just do this one and copy it, right? So there we go, right? We'll say event. So now when you click on link A, we're going to call on our show view function. And when we show this view, what we'll do is we'll say, show A. And remember, A was a variable that contains, this DOM element, which was the div with the ID name of A, right? Pardon me, I've been sick lately, right? So let's copy this, and then we'll paste it a couple times, and then we'll make another link for B, and when you load B, we'll load, view B, and then we'll make another one for C, and when we do that, we'll load C, right? Let's test that out and see if I made any mistakes here, right? So we'll refresh it here, and let's inspect the console here just in case. Oh, no errors, right? Okay, and then let's click one of the links there. Oh, I made a mistake. Let's see if we can figure it out here. So I'll click here, and then I see a link there, but then it disappears, right? And then notice the page is reloading, right? So I think what my problem is here is my links here are, they're reloading the page, right? And I don't want them to reload the page. So you know what I'll do? We could do event prevent default. I'm just going to put the hash mark in there, and that'll prevent them from loading the page again. So let's save that and refresh it here, and then we'll click on C. Oh, there's our view, and it slides in. Then we'll click on B, and then you can see, C slides out and B slides in, and it's kind of working there, right? And you could change the timing here by changing the value here. Maybe I'll make it 1,000, and that'll slow the animation down so it takes 1 second. So this number here is in milliseconds, right? So 1,000 to a second. So let's save it, and we'll click on view A. So there's our first view, and view B. There's our second view, and view C. Now, there's a couple things that can happen here, right? And they are that if you click the same view twice, do you see we kind of have a problem there, right? I mean, it kind of works, but there we kind of have another problem, right? So how do we solve that? Well, there's probably a few things you can do. Why don't we just take this strategy here? Inside show view, I'll put an if statement, right? So I got if parentheses curly brackets, and we'll say, hey, if current view, which is the view that's currently on display, the one we're seeing here, if it equals the new view, right? That's the one that we want to show next. If they're the same, then there's no reason to show them, right? So what we'll do is we'll just say return. And this will end our function here and prevent the rest of this code from running. So, you know, essentially if the current view is the new view, then don't do anything, right? I'll give that a try here. So there's view A. Oh, there we go, right? I clicked that too many times, right? Oh, there's view B. And if I click B again, nothing happens, right? Okay. So anyway, so there's just a little insight maybe into how to manage views. And you guys can try that on your own and maybe play with this, maybe change the animation here, you know, the timing, and, you know, maybe create an animation that slides down or up from the bottom or down from the top, right? You know, and then you can modify this, maybe add some content to the divs A, B, and C here, right? And maybe in the future we'll go over this and we'll kind of modify this and turn it into like a, you know, like a script that we could just add to any project. Like right now this is kind of written in a raw form where it just, you know, it's the basic idea and it's kind of just functioning, right? But we could improve on this, right? But anyway, there's our basic idea, you know. So we have our view, the current view, and we're going to move it off the screen. And when it's done moving off the screen, we'll remove it. And then right when we begin this animation, we'll also take a new view, append it to the container, animate it onto the screen, right? And that way we're always swapping, okay? So anyway, I hope that's interesting to someone, and thanks for watching.